Hi guys, my name's Connor. I'm a science fiction, politics, and philosophy nerd, a Marine Corps and law enforcement veteran. I would argue a real Republican, and I have something fantastic for you today. I got Mr. Hutchinson, okay? So the lore, which I barely know, but let's go ahead and get into it, is Hutch used to be a Call of Duty player. Then he allowed himself to take an algorithmic hit in order to become a Twitch and YouTube political commentator from a liberal but mildly progressive lens. Well, what's actually funny about Hutch and my relationship is we've debated guns in the past. He was way too pro-gun control for me. We talked about racism, immigration. We talked about tax policy. We talked about all that kind of stuff. And then he accused me of being a progressive. Well, what ended up happening since that time is Hutch has gone to war with the progressives. And what I mean by that is that there is, if you look at the left wing, there are liberals, there are progressives, and then there are leftists. And leftists I would define as socialists and communists. Well, what ended up happening was the progressives are playing footsie with the leftists, who are revolutionary socialists and communists who despise the Democratic Party. And Hutch is over here, I would argue, in the center left, arguing with the progressives and leftists saying, hey, you're going too far and it's costing us elections and it's a pain in the ass. And until you stop being stupid and cringe, I'm going to spend a healthy chunk of my time online fighting you in order to try to force you back into a sane position. That way we can win elections. Now, it's a fool's errand, but I do love him for doing it. And so while we don't agree on everything, while he does do, I don't know, weird, random, progressive shit that bugs me sometimes, I still think he's a good egg. And I think he's fighting the good fight. I think that Destiny and Pisco are better debaters. I think Pondering Politics and a few other creators are better at summarizing events. But as far as like a center-left guy who seems earnest in his political analysis, I actually trust Hutch to do good analysis. So a leftist who is a Hasan simp did a takedown piece on Hutch. We are going to be defending Hutch's honor. We're going to watch the intro real quick, where I think there's a few clips of Hutch freaking out. Then I'm going to go to the original video essay. That way we're not reacting to a react. So let's take a look at the intro. That way we can at least have some funny memes. 1 second.
This is, again, kind of an example of Hutch being so alienated by Hasan and not really having legitimate knowledge of what he's talking about, where he's just so blindingly angry in ways that to somebody like me who is queer and has read a lot of queer theory, I know Hasan knows what he's fucking talking about.
You're not...
Hutch is my spirit animal in that regard. Like him taking so much psychic damage that he has to scream is like, he's just like me for real. He's just like me. Oh God, I think he screams one more time. Okay, so I need to watch that.
saying anything. Like, rather than engage in anything I said, you literally did the meme where you're like, just read theory. Really? Why don't you just Google search like what blue states have passed into law?
On the most basic level, yes, things would be better under Kamala, but
what? What? All right, the name of this video.
Okay, I feel like I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but I'm gonna tell you why I think that was so funny to the point that I wanted to react to this as a segment. Okay, so this guy's not on my team. Okay, matter of fact, we're gonna be watching this content with the expectation that this guy's not on my team. Now, maybe you're a center left guy. Maybe you're a progressive gal. Maybe you're a progressive or center left non-binary person. I don't know. 60 to 70% of my chat is liberal. So they identify as more center left than they identify as center right. So maybe you think that this guy is on your team. But I'm going to tell you that I have this drawing that I'll pull up definitely during this segment, where if you look at the horseshoe theory, there's this belief that the far left and far right actually share more in common than they do with the center left and center right. And that's because they both make apologia for authoritarian regimes. They both believe that if they had unchecked power, they would be able to usher in a utopia. They might differ on what kind of utopic vision of the world that they want to usher in, but they both believe that with concentrated power, they would be able to make a better world. So the center left and the center right, arguably, if you're looking at like an authoritarian libertarian scale or an authoritarian liberal scale, arguably the center left and the center right, they might share more in principle, especially when it comes to like the nature of government. And so what's funny about this is this guy's not on my team. I don't claim him. I rebuke him. I disavow him. If we were standing in front of the creator of the universe and God was like, hey, is this your homie? Is this your home dog? I'd be like, nah, send that guy into the pit of hell. Fuck that motherfucker, right? And it's not because I think he's evil. It's not because like I think that like gay leftists are irredeemable people. It's just that leftists and I are not the same thing. If you think the decommodification of basic human need and workers owning the means of production is like the moral priority of our current state of existence, and you don't want to usher that in through a robot slave race, then I think you're a fucking idiot. Okay, I'll just be real. I think socialists, unless they're trying to colonize Mars to mine the asteroid belt so we can make a slave race of Boston Dynamics robots who replace human labor, I think me creating a slave race of robots is more likely than them achieving socialism with the current material conditions. And then if you're a communist who want to live in a moneyless, stateless, classless society, I just don't think you know what a human being is or what human nature is. So anyways, you're not on my team and I don't like you, and you can eat a bowl of wieners. Although, you know, I'm not trying to be homophobic about it, but you know, some leftists might prefer that. So without further ado, without further yapping, without further shit talking, let's take this guy's video essay from the top.
Hello, it's me, John Politics. Here to talk about politics in the politics zone. Normally, I don't talk about politics on the main channel, but you know what? We're spiced it up today. Every now and then I get asked to like debate on something, and I literally never say yes because it is entirely pointless. Whether it be the absolutely awful Jubilee videos or more personal one-on-one debates from political streamers who definitely aren't just trying to inflate their egos, debate and discussion on the internet has felt increasingly more pointless over time. However, I think a lot of the real problem for this is that many people who kind of grow up and evolve on the internet kind of come to see as this sort of rabid, warlike engagement as a means of engaging with politics in a legitimate way. I'm talking about this now because a little while ago, I discovered that the game YouTuber Hutch, as in like the guy who did prop hunt videos with sea nanners and folk like a decade ago, real blast from the past, has now kind of shifted almost entirely to being a political content streamer. Credit where credit is due. Like, I want to give him props for willing to make such a dramatic change to the kind of content that he makes, particularly if he doesn't enjoy doing games anymore. That legitimately takes balls to do in the absolute hellscape that is content creation, and particularly with a noble goal of wanting to educate people and make a better world for the people who inhabit it. Like, genuinely, that is a noble goal.
Okay, so this might actually help with flow. I was working on a mathematical spreadsheet on pen and pad, which feels ancient now, but I actually wrote down several points from this guy being an a-hole. I'll still be engaging with chat. I'll still be reading super chats, but when I hear a Soviet anthem in the beginning of your video, I assume you're a Marxist-Leninist. I know that there's plenty of people who do it as like a LARP where they're like, no, it's just a joke. I actually have a lot of criticisms for the Soviet Union, but I just assume you're a Marxist-Leninist hiding your power level. For those of you who don't know, I'll try to be brief about it. Socialism, once again, is the decommodification of basic human need. That means that food, water, and shelter is free, and it's workers owning the means of production, which means that every single worker, there's a variety of ways to do it, but let's just say the more liberal market-based way is that the state would enforce ownership, stock ownership of any company you worked for. You go work for Viacom, you get 1% of stock. You go to Publix, you get 1% of stock. You go wherever. And so as a result, you can vote on, since you're a stockholder, since you're a shareholder of the company, and the workers are the stockholders of the company, then you could have a process through which you vote on the processes of the company so you can make it more equitable and just over time, blah, 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 blah. That's the market solution. The non-market solution, because even Marxists and Leninists, Marxist-Leninist socialists, even they recognize that they would need a really powerful state to enforce even the market mechanism. What they do is they do apologia for a centralized authoritarian government that is itself the vehicle of the people. The people own the market through the state, and the state is what dictates what happens in the market in order to create a more just, equitable world. Now, what's happened in the history of the 20th century, don't know if a lot of you guys in chat are history buffs, but the Soviet Union was a fucking nightmare, okay? Soviet Union was a nightmare. Maoist China was a nightmare. Modern China, which is state capitalist, is arguably a nightmare. North Korea is a nightmare. Cambodia was a nightmare. They were just like massacres and famines and mismanagement from the central government and police states and political espionage and murder and all that kind of crap. And mixed economy and capitalism and liberal democracy and republicanism obviously has its fair share of these things. But if you put them on a statistical basis, they are outcompeting us in the corruption, political assassination, police state, Orwellian nightmare that is the socialist regimes of the 20th century. Now, saying you don't debate, saying that you're not a fan of debate perversion, that young people love political tribalism, and that Hutch is an enabler of this dynamic, and that he's a liberal fighting leftist. What I heard is that you're pusillanimous. So for what you guys might not know, but there is a term that is used to refer to women's genitalia. Okay, I'm sure that you can pusillanimous, and then the word that I'm using, I'm sure that you can tie the two together. Pusillanimous itself is not a reference to genitalia, though. It's just a statement saying that you're cowardly. That's what I heard. I heard that you're a coward. I heard that your ideas do not survive scrutiny. I heard that you have anxiety disorders that prevent you from fighting people online about why you're correct about things. And so I'm going to charge this man, and I'm going to charge Hasan Piker, his hero. I'm going to charge them as being pusillanimous internet people who are incapable of defending their ideas in a live environment. And when they do so in a live environment, they oftentimes get stomped. So let me react to the super chat real quick. Let me resume the video. Anonymous chatter for 20 bucks. Thank you, King. If these lazy ass tech bro billionaires ever get off their ass and make a good VR platform, we could start the simulated war series between communities. Valor reacts, breakdowns afterwards, infinite content possibilities. That is brilliant. I would love to do like a 30-on-30 Coliseum battle between COG and DGG. That would be phenomenal. Excellent idea, Anonymous chatter. Anyways, moving on the content, going to start reacting to chat as well.
However, as somebody who kind of also grew up on the internet, it's very obvious that I can see that Hutch is a product of this environment, and how he engages in making political content is extremely evident of the fact that his brain has been entirely rotted by this false version of political engagement. If you take a look at his channel, I think you can very much see the kind of content that he is making. This isn't like serious political analysis stuff. This is political content in the most intense word of content. He is engaging with things like making fun of Hasan, including pushing the insane shock collar conspiracy theory. Like, that's kind of my litmus test for if somebody actually has legitimate criticisms of Hasan, is if they believe in the just absolute batshit shock collar gate thing that happened. Hasan, 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 Hasan. There's so much anti-Hasan stuff in here. Now, I get it. Everybody has to play the thumbnail game on YouTube. Everybody has to do the clickbait thing. But I think once you actually look into a bit more of his content, which I've tried to give a fair shake, you could kind of see that he has become the epitome of this rigid internet mind whose views are not really based on an evolving political scope, but a line that has to be drawn because everybody else that you don't like is seen as hard opposition. Don't get me wrong here. It is entirely reasonable to see things as hard opposition, but it isn't just about seeing people as hard opposition. It's about Hutch fundamentally not having the contextual understanding of the things that he's talking about to be able to give legitimate critique. It doesn't really take long to notice that a lot of the content that he makes for people who are unfortunately online and recognize a lot of the people in these thumbnails is almost entirely targeted at this idea of the far left.
They just need their villain. Like, they need to be the heroes of the story, the downtrodden, the cheated. It plays into this kind of other narrative of, like, you know, the noble kind of victim, the noble kind of like victimhood of the online left. It's like a big part of the cultural and political identity that they have.
Almost every single time that Hutch comes across something that Hasan says, which is unfortunately frequently, he very rarely gives legitimate deep critique and usually ends up just kind of yelling.
The Democratic Party has this
I can't wait.
profound skill in snatching defeat from the jaws of victory.
Ah!
What is this take? What is this take? What is this take?
And to be clear, like, I don't have extremely strong opinions on Hasan one way or another. He said some dumb shit, but I will say, to echo the sentiment that FD Signifier said recently on one of his live stream videos,
y'all never gonna get me to dislike Hasan based off content, because I've engaged with Hasan on real shit on numerous occasions, and he puts his money where his mouth is. He comes through in a way that I don't expect, and I know a lot of white creators, and I love a lot of them. I will call Hasan first.
content-wise, whatever.
All right, let's pause a little bit. So the accusation is that Hutch is guilty of political brain rot. What I would do is I would just ask what this guy's favorite political creators are. And if it's not like President Sunday doing theory streams, then I think this guy is full of shit. And I think almost every major popular political creator in the space is guilty of engaging in brain rot. You know why? Because brain rot sells. Because I could just open up this stream and I could start regurgitating the Greater Courses series that I took in college, and I could probably take Ivy League 12 hours of audiobook, and I could summarize it for you within like an hour or two of the combined history of like Greco-Roman history, the combined history of the Byzantine Empire, the history of West Africa pre-colonization and post-colonization. I could describe to you like some of the more interesting aspects of like medieval Europe and the development of like disease profiles in Europe pre-colonization, the colonization of North America. Like we could do all that crap, and I could walk you through an entire chronology of 3,000 years. I would have 50 viewers, and I would love every single one of my 50 viewers. But if I talk shit about Hasan Piker's sex life, Destiny's sex life, this content creator no longer likes this content creator, the rooting it in the mundane brain rot bullshit of the Twitch and YouTube political space, you automatically double or triple your viewership. As Eleanor Roosevelt says, great minds talk about ideas, average minds talk about events, and small minds talk about people. Well, on the Counterpoints channel, I like to think that we take huge ideas that are kind of important, and then we jam them into the drama of personality to make it attractive to the average person. Now, it's not serious politics. Eat a dick. Once again, tell me your list of serious political commentators. Shock collar conspiracy theories. Eat a dick again, because once again, it's not that the shock collar thing is serious. I don't care. I've told you guys before. I don't like shock collars, but the shock collar itself, as far as like training a dog with like a minimal electric shock, is not my problem. My problem is going for 2 months, donating a bunch of cash to rescue organizations. That way, nobody gives you shit when you buy a $10,000 bread dog. And by the way, I do appreciate him. He didn't really have to donate all that money to rescue organizations. So I actually do applaud Hasan for that, despite me actually hating his guts. But then spending $10,000 on a bread dog and then using it as a prop instead of a living, breathing animal, right? Because what he did is he used the shot collar in order to keep Kaya in place for like an 8-hour stream. And it's like, dogs love to sleep, but they don't love to sleep in the exact same space for 8 hours. That's fucking crazy. Let her be a dog. And then what's happened since he stopped shocking her in order to force her to be in place? She's wandering the house now. Or he just keeps her in the kennel during stream. I have no idea where she is. I hope she's not in the kennel. But anyways, it just kind of indicates that Hasan does have some like weird sociopathic bullshit where he's not viewing Kaya as a animal with emotions and a brain. He's viewing Kaya as a stream prop, an aesthetic, like an aesthetic flourish similar to a t-shirt, you know? So fuck him for that. Leftists are hard opposition. Well, I'm going to submit this argument to you, okay? I'll pull up the drawing real quick, but leftists are my hard opposition. We do not align, okay? So unless leftists want to help me use the mixed economy capitalist machinery of, you know, America in order to colonize Mars so we can start harvesting the asteroid belt, so we can start getting enough like raw materials in order to build a slave race of robots that then allow us to eliminate the need for human labor, that's when I'll be a socialist. When we eliminate the need for human labor through technology, that's when I'll be a socialist, and not a day before. So you are my hard opposition, because I don't think that day is coming anytime soon. Not having hard critiques of leftists, okay, fair enough. There are plenty of stupid people. There are plenty of stupid liberals. I don't watch a lot of Hutch content, but there's a lot of people who, like, even though they participated in Twitch and YouTube politics for a really long time, they actually don't have a strong command of socialist history, socialism as a concept, or communism as a concept, or even the history of the 20th century. So I actually think that's an okay criticism. The noble victim mentality of the online left, that's just true. So I don't know what his rebuttal to the critique is, because when you look at the Marxist dialectic of the oppressed proletarian masses needing to, you know, rise up against their bourgeois oppressors and then abolish the class system so every human is equal, that has been shifted to social dynamics where white supremacy is viewed as like the bourgeois upper class, and anti-racist progressive narratives, like they make it virtuous to be a person of color, or a disabled person, or somebody from the third world, or the what do they call it, like the global south, who's being oppressed by the imperial core. So once again, I don't think this rebuttal is particularly good. Then saying I'm not a fan of Hasan while glazing his talking points, all you're telling me is that you don't like Hasan's optics. You're not telling me that you don't like his politics. You're just saying that, like, yeah, sometimes he says cringe shit that's counterproductive to the political objectives that I have, but realistically, I still agree with his perspectives, which still makes me an antagonist to your mission. Also, Hasan is real, according to FD Signifier. Hasan Piker is a real ninja because he will actually financially support the what do I say? Like the progressive causes through charitable organizations and protests and this, that, the other. Okay, good for you. We're still not on the same team. So that actually doesn't really address whether or not centrist liberals are on the same team as leftists. Now, I do want to show you this real quick, because this is actually the basis of the cog. I probably haven't shown you guys this picture in quite a while. So I would say that social democrats are a lot further left than me economically, but realistically, I like what do they call? They call these people who ignore race issues and cultural issues for economic ones. I forget what they call those guys, but there's some like slur that leftists use against people who only care about material conditions and don't care about race. And I actually like those guys better. I actually like those guys more than progressives. So the sock Dems might feel a little bit alienated by me throwing them up here, but it is what it is, okay? If you're a sock Dem who cares about culture war issues enough not to be a total douchebag, but you don't let it be like a core component of your personality, then we can be friends. Whereas if you let like social justice warrior issues be your personality, then fuck you, you're not part of my coalition. And then down here, effectively what I'm saying is, I would like to take the sane progressives, I would like to take the sane liberals, I would like to take the sane never Trump Republicans and neoconservatives, the sane elements of the contrarian right, because there are definitely schizophrenics that we've seen, Candace Owens, Tim Pool being the schizophrenics that I'm thinking of. And then I would like to take the remnants of MAGA once Trump is destroyed, and I would like to build a coalition that actually gives a fuck about building like a real republic that actually serves the people's needs. Now, that's a highfalutin goal. Are we going to be able to achieve that? No. But is this the political direction in which I want to push? Absolutely. So once again, like the stream, share it with your friends, engage with chat, super chats if you got them, memberships if you got them. I'm going to keep reacting to the video and taking cliff notes where I'm reacting to it. I actually hope this is making better react material by me writing down notes of exactly what the guy said that I want to respond to instead of just reading chat. That way it's not as ADD and haphazard. I know that means that I'm ignoring chat a little bit more, but I'm going to keep scrolling through chat. And I'm going to pull up live chat momentarily. That way I can still see live chat. And then I hope that the quality of the content actually goes up through me doing this. So let's keep going.
Hasan shows the fuck up, and that is what matters. I've been reading a really good book called Don't Talk About Politics, which talks about stuff like this in particular, about how a lot of social media, as well as the broader political sphere, has kind of become this big warlike zone in which people do not view people as people. They view them as opposition. To quote the book, the emphasis is not on convincing others, but on beating them by proving the other side wrong definitively, vanquishing them with a counter argument showing with great force it's not just your views are better, but why theirs are also wrong. I think the popularity of debate that we've seen grow and grow in online culture, from, people like Destiny to various political panels online to the late not so great Charlie Kirk, I think the illusion of the marketplace of ideas and the popularity of debate kind of turning political discussion or discussion in general into almost a kind of warlike action is very evident in how Hutch speaks and engages with content. He doesn't see Hasan as simply another point of view. He sees Hasan as a literal enemy.
I'm so fucking pissed right now. Fuck this guy, bro. This guy is political opposition. Never in a million years should we ever associate with him, his ilk, his supporters.
To Hutch, he's not engaging with Hasan or the online left. He's engaging with this sort of boogeyman, this construct that he has made, to which he just finds the most ridiculous things to blame on them without fully being able to realize the flaws of the side that he's on, which is the center and the Democrats who have done nothing but fuck us in the ass for God knows how many years. I found this pretty insane clip where he blames people like Hasan and the far left for the reason why the Supreme Court supermajority happened.
He tried to do sweeping student loan debt. And do you know who rejected him? The Supreme Court. Do you know how they were able to reject him? Because there's a 6-3 majority on the Supreme Court. Do you know how they got to a 6-3 majority on the Supreme Court? Because I'm losing my temper. People like Hasan, in part because people like Hasan use the massive platform that they have to tell their audience that there's really no difference between Democrats and Republicans. It doesn't matter if a Democrat or Republican wins in 2016, even though Ruth Bader Ginsburg was like 152 years old. And we all knew there was a serious risk that she wouldn't make it to 2020. And that wasn't enough. So maybe if you guys would have taken the Supreme Court more seriously in 2016, he would have been able to forgive more student loan debt, but you didn't. So this is the position that we're in.
Hutch is completely stuck because of this warlike mentality he has adopted in believing that for some reason focusing on the left is the broad ultimate solution, and not that the Democrats have had complete autonomy this entire time and have just completely misread what the American people actually want and thrown everything into the gutter is just not something that seems to ever cross his mind. The
Oh my God. Okay, this is great. I'm actually so excited for this. So this guy asserts political tribalism leads to dehumanization, that vanquishing the opposition through proving that the other side is wrong in the illusion of the marketplace of ideas is how Twitch and YouTube politics, how Destiny and a whole bunch of other creators conduct ourselves. But he hasn't actually proven why we're wrong. Okay. And I think this is actually emblematic in the very next piece of content that he does. So let's say that leftists weren't insane in trying to yank the Overton window left no matter what, in reference to trans issues, in reference to immigration, in reference to socialism or communism. And so as a result, they are, more sane and viewed as more incremental and therefore viewed as less of a threat, but then they actually achieve legislative wins. And they also say, at the end of the day, a Democrat is better than, especially a MAGA Republican, and therefore we're going to vote blue no matter who as a fallback position, but we're still going to try to chip away at the Overton window in an incremental way in order to achieve our goals. Well, then probably what would happen is that there would be less people who are able to take insane leftist progressive ideas, clip them into propaganda for the right, and then use leftists as a boogeyman to scare the right into jumping further and further and further right. Okay? Because I would actually say that the online media landscape and the anti-social justice warrior movement and Gamergate and the general hatred for, insane lefty progressive policies actually did contribute to the right-wing backlash that's occurred over the past decade. Then, in reference to, you're not proving Hutch wrong, okay? Leftists did overtly criticize Hillary Clinton as this like centrist, neocon, neoliberal shill and a piece of shit. Well, if you had plugged your nose or, held up your nose and then voted for her, and she had actually won against Donald Trump, then what would have happened is you wouldn't have gotten a 6-3 conservative SCOTUS that overturned Roe versus Wade. Probably the biggest political overturn in the past 50 years is the repeal of Roe versus Wade at the Supreme Court level. So yeah, one of the biggest things in the past 50 years of an American politics wouldn't have happened and been a shift to the right. Now, the accusation, and I can't wait for this guy to get into this more because I'm going to talk about it more, is that functionally, I hear plenty of leftists say that there is no difference between Republicans and Democrats. And yet, we also have things like PEPFAR and USAID, where in the second Trump term, Donald Trump cut the federal budget by 0.16% of the budget, and yet he's arguably going to kill between 3 million and 14 million people over the next 5 years. There are people who are being infected with HIV and AIDS in Africa right now who would not have been infected with HIV or AIDS if Kamala was in the office. Now, the thing about it is, here's where the leftists definitely lose me. A lot of them, and I'm thinking of the vanguard when I say this, they pick one or two moral pet issues that they cannot budge on. And those two issues, in my opinion, are socialism, decommodification of basic human needs and workers owning the means of production, and Palestine. So if you don't dog whistle about how you're actually like a socialist, but you'll implement social democratic policies now as a stopgap against the brutality of capitalism, then they don't like you. If you're a mixed economy capitalist, then leftists fucking hate your guts because you are somebody who perpetuates the mixed economy capitalist system. Okay. And then Palestine is another one, because within the noble victim narrative, Palestinians, there could be no more noble a victim than a Palestinian child. Okay. They're a largely stateless people. They're a largely politically disenfranchised people. They're being brutalized by a military power supported by Western imperialism. They have very few allies, and the few allies they do have are vilified as terrorists and rebels and all that kind of stuff. And so as a result, you know, those are the two things that they're going to die on the hill on, right? So, but that leads to worse electoral outcomes, right? Now, here's another point, and weirdly enough, Euthanera says, you can't censor all of us. We've seen your videos defending authoritarianism. I'm about to do so now. You think I care that you watch my videos? Watch more of my videos, you dumbass. Sean Kaplan for 5 says, note system is shit. Note system is the shit. Keep it up. I'm here for your insight, not the one guide segments, lol. Thank you, Sean. I appreciate that. I'll keep going with it. Real serious for the 100 Argentinian pesos says, even with food poisoning and fever, I could outreason this fellow. These people are worse than the Groypers and how they want to do entryism with the Dems. Also, fit is hella stupid. I actually like the fit. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to defend him real quick. I don't like his turtleneck because it looks like too soft. He needs a black one that like goes up to his throat. You know what I'm saying? He needs like the classic like 1990s douchebag art villain thing. Okay. Anyways. And so the Republican Party, as shitty as they are, what they say is that the average person is an impulsive, stupid, shitty, lazy douchebag. And I, as an average person, I'm an above average person, but that's okay. I am an impulsive, lazy, R-slurred, shitty douchebag. And so if that's true, we need to elect the most virtuous among us, the wealthiest, the strongest, the smartest, the most technocratically capable people to be our representatives so they can craft policy, not for what people want, because oftentimes what people want is incredibly destructive, but what's good for people. And what's good is oftentimes having a strong family, having a strong community, having a religious community, even if you don't believe in religion, working hard, being an entrepreneur, creating an economic system that is productive, that actually does make enough money and make enough products in order to make the world a better place. That makes the world a better place. And so the Republican Party, if it existed as its ideal and its propaganda, would be amazing. It would be the perfect vehicle for the way that I feel about the world. And yet they are corrupt, kleptocratic, shitty douchebags who are just interested in power and push-ups. Bud 123. I see your push-ups comment. They're interested in power, and they're interested in accumulating power and wealth for the elite and themselves.
The fact that we fucking lost in 2024 and that Biden did very little over his entire term. Any of the gains that he did make were either temporary or lapsed. And the fact that Trump has been able to do, what, half of Project 2025 over the course of a year.
Via executive order, you are slur. Sorry, I paused. Andy. My bad.
Of him being in office with less of a majority than Biden has during his term, just for some reason doesn't ever cross his mind. But I digress. I think that debate culture has almost kind of evolved into this form of content where Hutch, even though he's not directly debating people like Hasan or Emma Vigeland that he also doesn't like, when he makes content, when he talks to his viewers in streams, he tries to almost debate them in the videos and then break down their claims by kind of collapsing all nuance as possible, even if he is entirely unequipped to handle the discussion at hand. Like, there's a really interesting clip that I watched of his video where he thinks that Emma Vigeland got dunked on by MSNBC on this panel where she talks about how the Democrats need to do something else instead of being a bunch of flip-floppy, limp-dicked assholes who don't really do anything besides kowtow to the big tech oligarchy donor foundation that they've built for themselves over the past 10 years or so. And Hutch can only interpret this as her wanting them to be more on the left.
He's got 48% strong disapproval. How come the Democratic Party's approval rating is lower as a brand
because
than
of the muddled message that I was just trying to elucidate?
So you believe it's because they're not far left enough?
No, I believe that there needs to be a different approach to politics here, not building.
To be fair, I mean, like, she kind of dodged that, but no, that is what she's saying. She's saying that the Democratic Party is not left enough, and that's why they've lost popularity. And I think she's probably obfuscating a little bit here and avoiding that conclusion.
Obviously, people like me.
Hold on. I really, really, really would have liked to have heard Emma Viglin's position. Maybe I'm pause Andying right now, but let me go ahead and pause Andy, okay? Hutch, according to this guy, is ignoring the fact that Donald Trump has been able to institute half of Project 2025 in less than a year. You know why, you fucking dumbass? Because he did it via executive order. He did it via authoritarian executive order that is constantly getting challenged by the courts. And there's plenty of things that Donald Trump has done that's been overturned by the courts, or checked by the courts, or checked by the 8th Amendment, or checked by the 4th Amendment, or checked by the 1st Amendment, or the 2nd. Okay? There's been plenty of things that have actually been checked by our constitutional republic, but this douchebag doesn't understand how anything works. So he thinks that just putting in a bunch of authoritarian executive orders is how you do business. But the truth is, that anything that, as we learned with DACA, anything that can be done by executive order can be reversed by executive order. So if Project 2025 is not codified by the legislature, then what's going to happen is that the next president, presuming that it's a Democrat, hopefully it's a Democrat, in order to blunt the operations of MAGA. Once again, if the Republican Party lived up to its ideals, then I would hardcore be a fucking Republican, but the Republican Party is filled with cultists and pieces of shit right now. A Democratic president could reverse all of this via executive order. So him pretending, oh, you could have just done whatever you wanted to do via executive order. This guy's an asshole, okay? He doesn't understand the current system. He doesn't understand the balance of power. He doesn't understand the republic. He doesn't understand the 3 branches of government. He doesn't understand the executive, the judicial, or the legislative. Wait, executive, president, judicial, judgment, Supreme Court, and the judges in the court system. Legislative. Yes, I was correct. So he doesn't understand any of this kind of stuff. So this guy's a fucking idiot. Now, Officer Nasty says, oh yeah, Emma Vigeland denies that she's further left. Ha 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 ha. Aren't you so wrong? Because, you know, this guy said that she wants to go further left, and yet Emma Vigeland says that she doesn't. Why do you call out my chat when your land had literally nothing to do with me? What the fuck? I'm about to answer that, okay? Because Emma Vigeland, I've seen enough of Emma Vigeland in order to know that she's an economic populist who very much cares about Palestine, okay? Very much cares about Palestine, okay? So saying, oh, no, I don't want to go further left is bullshit. She's an economic populist. She wants social democratic policy. She supports Mamdani, okay? She supports the AOC and the Justice Dems. She supports more of the progressives, right? Just bad faith for no fucking reason. I'm just repeating what the literal video said, but straw man me. Okay, I just did. But I didn't straw man you. I'm explaining. I don't know a fucking thing about Emma Vigeland. Well, I know more than you, Officer Nasty, so sit back and listen to the explanation, okay, bud? Okay? So the explanation is that Emma Vigeland is like, no, I don't want to go further left. I just want the United States to force Israel to come to the table. Guess what? That's a further left position. Yeah, you did. You literally made me a nerd voice, literally straw man. Well, stop being such a fucking nerd, Officer Nasty. Have you ever thought about that? Anyways, the point is, Emma Vigeland absolutely wants to shift the Democratic Party left, okay? I could go into specific examples, but you could also just trust me. Emma Vigeland 100% wants to make the Democrat Party more economic populist, more like the Squad, more like the Justice Dems, okay? You're soy as fuck? No, you are. Fist fight me, nerd. Come to Orlando. Roll up, bitch. Roll up, bitch. We'll fucking... We'll fist fight in my front yard. It'll be awesome. Drop on by. Send me a DM on Discord. I'll give you my address.
And people like Emma think it would be great for them to be more left. But in the context...
Officer Nasty says you'd have a heart attack, brother. You're not wrong. You're 50 with kids. You're right. I mean, I would definitely chew you up, but I would absolutely have a heart attack. So, anyways, you're right.
context of this discussion, it isn't even about them being more left. It's about them having any balls to do any of the stuff that they legitimately said that they were going to do in the first place. Like, they gave up on $15 minimum wage. They did nothing to address affordability. Once again, they're in the process of throwing trans people under the bus.
Yeah, they just gave you what, like a shitload of access and social programs in order to help people reacclimate after the pandemic. They just sent out like additional COVID stimulus and loan programs to keep businesses afloat. They also did like a massive infrastructure spending plan that employed like hundreds of thousands of people. And all the Republicans are currently claiming credit for the massive infrastructure projects that are happening in their states, but they're all funded by Joseph Biden's infrastructure bill. Yeah, he didn't do shit, okay? Because Palestine still got its shit kicked in, because you didn't get $15 an hour, and because we haven't instituted socialism, Joe Biden hasn't done shit. Okay, all right, you're a fucking nerd. And then not only that, okay? So here's the other thing. This is something that Joe Biden said in his like 1989 presidential run, okay? He said, "Don't compare me to the almighty, compare me to the alternative." It's just absolutely true. Who's the alternative? Between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, would Kamala Harris have killed 3 million to 14 million people overseas through USAID and PEPFAR cuts? Absolutely the fuck not. Would she have basically backed Israel in order to annex the West Bank and Gaza? No, she wouldn't have. She would have let them fuck up Gaza 100%, but she would not have let them annex it. Whereas Donald Trump is effectively enabling Israel to annex the West Bank and to annex Gaza. And then what was the other thing that they care about? Oh, socialism. She wouldn't have ushered in a socialist utopia, but she probably would have passed larger spending bills that would have actually distributed money to the proletarian masses rather than to the ultra rich. So once again, if you're thinking from an incremental perspective, then you 100% should support a Democrat, like especially if you're a leftist, okay? I hate the average person. I think the average person is a rube and a moron and a douchebag. But if you think that there's like virtue in the average person, you think the average person is like a noble savage, then you 100% should support a Democrat over a Republican. So anyways, I'll try not to straw man this guy. I'll try to take some notes.
Like, I just genuinely don't know how you can look at the fact that Trump won and so many people neglected to not vote.
Because he was running off of economic populism. I'm sorry for pausing, Andy, and fuck this guy.
And see that as an issue of the far left not sucking off the Democrats enough, but instead that the Democrats, like, just have lost the faith of the public because they're endlessly trying to push this garbage centrism that nobody actually wants. To speak on the trans thing for a little bit as well, there's another video that I watched where Hutch gets extremely mad at Hasan saying something along the lines of things wouldn't really be that much better for trans people under Kamala if she won as opposed to Trump right now.
He's going to tell you that, and by the way, this is a wrong statement that he's going to deliver, but don't you think things would be better for trans people right now if Kamala Harris, after making concessions about transphobia and leaning into anti-trans narratives, if she had won, don't you think things would be better for trans people as opposed to right now?
What an insane thing to say. That is crazy, because they
Did he pause, Andy?
validated people's concerns when it came to trans girls in sports. That's all they did. I understand why parents have those concerns. I maybe have some of the same concerns. It's a really difficult issue, but it should be up to, the individual athletic bodies to determine whatever regulations, and the government shouldn't be involved.
He also says this, which I find to be absolutely hilarious.
If you want better outcomes for trans people, I believe you have a moral obligation to dunk on Hasan every time he says stupid shit like this. You are morally obligated to call this out. Unironically, some of the best trans advocacy you can do is debunking Hasan Piker claims about like the Democratic Party. You in that action would be doing more for trans people than Hasan has ever done in his entire life.
This is, again, kind of an example of Hutch being so alienated by Hasan and not really having legitimate knowledge of what he's talking about, where he's just so blindingly angry in ways that to somebody like me who is queer and is involved heavily in trans rights and has read a lot of queer theory, I know Hasan knows what he's fucking talking about. And Hutch is literally just like LARPing being a trans activist right now. Any queer person with any reasonable amount of historical knowledge knows that even though, yes, the right absolutely hates us and wants us to basically burn in pits, the Democrats tolerate us and absolutely have a history of throwing us under the bus to kowtow whenever we need. For example, right now, with everything fucking Gavin Newsom is doing, everything that the Democrats have done before with constantly kowtowing to the whole trans swimmers thing, like, holy fuck. Like, the fact that Hutch doesn't understand that this pandering is an issue that will legitimately affect building a coalition is insane. Like, he also has clips where he defends Ezra Klein and his completely insane abundant shit and talking about building a broader umbrella, like having pro-life Democrats.
What Ezra Klein is talking
Dems lost the faith of the public through centrism. Go fuck yourself, you fucking idiot. Okay? People were looking for the non-Trump candidate because Trump fucked up the economy so bad. And the only reason why Trump is back in office is because I would say it's like 90% economics. It's because the economic recovery after the pandemic was so anemic that while things were getting better, Trump was promising like revolutionary economic improvement. And yet what he has delivered, because the average American is a fucking idiot, is economic disaster. Like I don't know if you guys are looking at what's happened over the past like year and what the numbers are. Number one, we didn't even get numbers in the fall of last year because the Trump administration gutted the administrative bodies that actually track economic growth and output. Not only that, but the 3% or 4% growth in GDP is effectively relegated to AI and the tech sector. There's not actually real things that are growing in reference to the economy. And then when it comes to the average person's life, prices have remained stagnant at the high level, and arguably in a bunch of different industries, they've exploded due to tariffs. So the economic revolution that was appealing to the average American who was an economic populist, which these people argue for, has actually gutted the American economy. So the very political narrative that he wants was used by Trump to achieve political power and then used to destroy the American economy. So once again, not knowing how things work is what a douchebag. Now, if Kamala was president, would it be better for trans people? Obviously, yes. And Hutch is saying, hey guys, Kamala didn't become a transphobe overnight. He just said she just said, maybe trans people shouldn't be in fucking combat sports. Okay? Listen, I hate to say this to you, but it's just true. The average male is larger than the average female. They have more muscle mass. They have stronger tendons. They have a stronger skeleton. They have narrower hips. They have broader shoulders. They have physiology that lends themselves to combat sports and aggression in other sports. So if you want to have trans girls play badminton, I could give a fuck. I don't care. If you want to have trans people play, what's the one where you hit the ice one with like the little shuffle pucks that you push with a broom, right? I forget which one that is. But if you want to have trans girls compete in the female league for the fucking pushing the ice pucks, I could give a fuck, right? But at the same time, if you want to have trans chicks in MMA and you're willing to bet all of your political capital on trans girls in hockey, no, not hockey. The one curling. Thank you, Weld QC John. Thank you, Weld QC John. That's funny. Hockey. Fuck you, Tyler Pham. I don't even know if you're fucking with me. That was pretty funny. Yeah, this ninja don't know hockey. No, I was talking about curling. Oh my God. All right. Anyways, so the point is that obviously, lefties lose political capital by insisting on 0.5% of the population being involved in fucking combat sports. So Kamala Harris saying like, hey, I love trans people. I love non-binary people. I want them to have dignity and rights and be participating in politics and participating in civic life. And I don't want them to be vilified just on the aspect of being trans. However, I do think that putting, you know, a 6'4", 300-pound trans woman in MMA with a 5'4", you know, born female, AFAB female woman is fucking crazy. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, Fallon Fox is the only one that you can point to. Yeah, sure. But at the same time, we're talking about political capital. Do you understand what political capital is? Think of it as like a transaction. Like you can spend your money to get stuff. So all the money that you spend on trans women and MMA is political capital that you can't spend in another direction. And as a matter of fact, it reduces the amount of political capital or energy that people put into your political movement. So you spend your political capital on intelligent bets. Okay? So anyways, so what Hutch is saying correctly, by the way, is that whenever Hasan advocates that you should waste political capital on stupid shit, you should dunk on him. And what's so funny is that this motherfucker actually proves the point within the same frame. He says that Democrats only tolerate queers and trans people, whereas the right wing has blind hatred for queers and trans people. Okay, well, when you're involved in a binary choice because of our two-party system, what is better for trans people? Tolerance or blind hatred? I'll give you a second to think about it, okay? Tolerance, hey, we might not be on the same page in reference to everything, but I'm going to accept that you're a person who's in my community, and despite us not agreeing on everything, I still love you and consider you a part of the coalition of humanity, right? Or, fuck you, you're an abomination from, God says you're an abomination and you should be burning in hell, and if the cops wouldn't stop me, I would murder you. Which one's better, guys? I'm just going to assume that tolerance is infinitely better than blind hatred. Let's just put it that way. Pandering is an issue, sure. And then coalition. So in reference to the coalition, you also have multiple coalitions within the Democratic establishment. You got the Black community, which is 13% of the American population. You got Hispanics, which are 24% of the population. You have trans people, which are 0.5% of the population, even though they're a lightning rod issue. And then you have normie, working class Democrats. Okay. So should you say, oh, well, we'll just kill all the trans people. That way we don't have to worry about them as a part of our political coalition because they're a political liability. That way, you know, we can focus on blacks, Hispanics, and white working class. No, obviously not. You don't need to genocide the transes in order to win elections. But do you need to spend as much time and energy on the transes as you do? And could you draw up reasonable lines? Like, trans adults should be able to transition. Trans adults should be able to make healthcare decisions in line with their psychiatrist and in line with their, in line with their government. Absolutely. That's a perfectly reasonable position that falls under the umbrella of tolerance. So anyways, this guy being an idiot and not understanding how anything works and not understanding how our system works and also not understanding that Hutch is fundamentally correct is unsurprising for me. Now, the two other notes that I took is abundance Democrats and pro-life Democrats. I'm assuming he's going to say that they're not part of the coalition, which is going to be mad fucking silly, but I'm not going to launch into a diatribe just yet. I'm going to let this guy give me some more information before we continue. That's Hutch. I thought that was Timu Charles Xavier. That's the same thing, old school. Same thing. All right. Anyways, let's get back to it.
About is a much more macro level analysis, prescriptive analysis. He's thinking about the much, much bigger picture. He's thinking about the problems that we face in this country from like a 30,000 foot level. She says 2025, Ezra Klein wants to abandon women in red states. That doesn't seem to be true. Quite the opposite. I think he is saying the opposite.
And that a lot of the people who embrace alarm don't embrace what I think obviously follows from that alarm, which is the willingness to make strategic and political decisions you find personally discomforting, even though they are obviously more likely to help you win, right? Taking political positions that'll make it more likely to win Senate seats in Kansas and Ohio and Missouri. Trying to open your coalition to people you didn't want it open to before, running pro-life Democrats. And one of my biggest frustrations with many people whose politics I otherwise share is the unwillingness to match the seriousness of your politics to the seriousness of your alarm.
I'm sorry. You want to say that you're building a coalition to support people, to support women, and you want to bring in and run people that hate women, basically, that don't want.
I hate this guy. I'm going to let him go, though. If I interrupt here, I'm going to go on a 5-minute rant on one point. I want to see if he makes another point. Holy shit, what an idiot.
Women to have control over their bodies. How can you say that that's any form of a coalition? How can you not understand that having people like that completely shatters your coalition and has gotten us to where we are right now? It's gotten us.
No, it hasn't.
To the point that Trump is in office, that things are worse for trans people, that we are being tormented on the street by fascists with guns. It's completely ridiculous. It's not about Hasan. It's not about trans people. It's that Hutch hates Hasan. He hates leftism. This fantastical version of it. And he cannot seem to think for 2 seconds that maybe, just maybe, he doesn't know what he's fucking talking about. He doesn't understand queer history or the complexities of being trans. Oh my God, if
okay, do you care about queer history and the complexity of being trans, or winning the political electoral game that gives you more power? Holy shit. This guy doesn't know what I've made this accusation before. Okay, I've made this accusation before. There are people, and I think that Mike from PA, Denim, Hasan, other people, I've accused them of this in the past, and I'll stand by it. There are people who think that politics is having the correct opinions on the internet. Okay? There are people, and you will find them predominantly amongst the woke left, that politics is having the correct opinions on the internet. It's not about canvassing. It's not about finding good candidates. It's not about proposing good legislation. It's not about pushing legislation through lobbying. It's not about, being pragmatic and building a coalition that can actually win. That's not politics. Politics is putting like a black bar on your Instagram profile picture when BLM happens. That's politics. Politics is saying that what is it? The gay riots or whatever, the gay riots that allegedly helped push for gay civil rights in like the 70s through the 90s, the gay riots, those were done by queer women of color, and posting that on your Twitter is politics. That's not politics, you fucking idiot. I barely do politics. What I do in reference to politics is I try to collect people who are already politically minded and then convince them that I am correct in my beliefs about the world. That way they can take those incorporated beliefs and then go back into their own communities and make their lives a little bit better, having heard what I have to say. Okay. And also that involves like choosing the lesser of two evils in electoral politics and being a good community member, not just in a digital community, but also in your IRL life. Right. I know that's redundant, but still, that's how I do politics, which is barely politics, by the way. We have opinions on the internet, but I hope that our collective opinions actually do trickle back into your real world. Okay. So when it comes to, let me address why I think this is so stupid, because this guy like rubbing his eyes while being so unbelievably wrong about everything, I actually find it's almost like a art piece. This is like, I wish this guy was a graper. That way this was like a post-ironic art piece. I think it would be amazing. I think that if this was J-Reg pretending to be a leftist to do a post-ironic art piece about how politics is really having opinions on the internet and liking Hasan Piker, it's not electoralism, I think this would be one of the best videos I've ever seen. Okay. So in reference to abundance, abundance is saying, hey, the left wing in its really, really, really good intentions has saddled infrastructure development with so much red tape that even things that are incredibly beneficial to society, like high-speed rail in California or desalinization plants in California or desalinization in, I don't know, like upstate New York or, like a national transit system, we have encumbered the state with so many regulations in reference to trying to prevent ecological harm and harm to societies through sovereign domain or whatever the fuck it's called. We've saddled the government so long that we can no longer build what's necessary in order to usher in the next generation of American wealth through public works. So as a result, we don't need to destroy regulation, but we need to be common sense and limit the regulation or eliminate the regulation that prevents us from doing the infrastructure projects that are going to usher in the next century and millennia of American greatness. That's abundance liberalism. If you don't like that, I think you're an idiot, okay? And then pro-life Democrats. I already told you there's a multitude of people in the coalition. There's the white working class. There's blacks. There's like 70 to 80% of Hispanics. There's transes and gays, and that's the Democratic coalition. Well, guess what? There's social conservatives who are members of the white working class who still want to be represented in economic, populist, and social democratic ventures that make their lives easier. But they are still pro-life in that they think that abortion is immoral. They're still religious. And so supplanting religion and spirituality and saying, no, you effectively have to worship the secular liberalism, which is like whatever lefties say today on Twitter is like your ideological backbone. That's fucking crazy. And it's unsurprising to me that this person believing that being pro-life and being a Democrat is incompatible. I'm unsurprised that lack of tolerance of other people with different beliefs, and by the way, that's not even my beliefs, but it is unsurprising to me that he does not recognize that by fracturing that coalition, you've alienated broad swaths of the white working class, and therefore the white working class has abandoned you for economic populism from Donald Trump.
If you're unfamiliar with this, like...
Is populism a natural response to elitism? Absolutely. As a matter of fact, I would say the neoliberals and neoconservatives, even though I consider myself a neoconservative, they have no one to blame for themselves for the populist economic revolt on the right and the left was caused by neoliberal and neoconservative disdain for the working class.
Great book to get into this for anybody, including Hutch, if you somehow found this, like Queer Then and Now, a great compilation of really important speeches from important activists, like incredibly good, accessible, yet challenging stuff to make you understand this. Like on the most basic level, yes, things would be better under Kamala, but you know what? The Democrats still wouldn't be fucking doing anything to give us actual meaningful advancement. That is.
Don't let perfect be the enemy of great. Don't let great be the enemy of good. Don't let good be the enemy of done. It's, yeah. Cerinthius, you just, oh shit. Where am I logged in right now? How do I make you a moderator? I think you've been soy in the past, or else I would have promoted you. But this joke is hysterical. Read this book, you'll understand Hasan fully, and it's a book about being gay. Hey. Here's how to understand Hasan Piker fully. Gay porno mag. I know. Well, I don't know. I don't know how Xyranthius meant it. That's how I took it. All right. I'm enjoying that too much. I'm enjoying. Fuck. Okay, I'm enjoying my own joke too much. Okay. All right.
It's an incredibly hard thing for a lot of people to come to terms with, even some queer people. But everybody I know understands this. It sucks. It feels
read more queer theory. Everybody I know understands this.
Really bad to say, but unfortunately, that's just how it is. Hasan is right. And it is a hard thing to be able to understand. But the fact that Hutch doesn't even take 2 seconds to think about it proves that his brain is just like so rigid in this warlike state that he can't even take 2 seconds to even do deeper research on how trans people feel about this. I can tell Hasan has read our shit because that is the correct thing to say. God, like, oh, like Hutch doesn't even seem to know the difference between the importance of a stimulus check versus a tax credit.
Problems are solvable if you stop implementing this as tax credits, though weirdly that's never on the table. It's not weird. It's because Americans are geared towards tax cuts. Americans and the Democrats are terrified of presenting anything as like spending money on Americans, and only can angle any sort of political movement in the direction of less taxes. That's it.
Doesn't it accomplish the same thing? Like if you give someone a $5,000 tax credit as opposed to like a $5,000 stimulus check, doesn't it accomplish the same thing? And if
it literally does.
If the optics of it are more like palatable for the median voter, then what's the issue? No, because a check is way better. But for example, like the child tax credits, those came in the form of checks, right? I feel like the child tax credit, like people were getting like literal checks that were
I think I was too, weirdly enough. So we had kids during the pandemic. I think I got a few checks for the child tax credit. And then that was like income that I also did not have to pay on for tax purposes.
Advance on the tax credit, right?
These online echo chambers, essentially turning all form of political engagement that you have online, whether you're actually talking to a person or reacting to something, as you turn it into a debate, even if you're debating something completely imaginary, has
make shittier content.
Ruined political discourse in a way that is so hard to describe. And like, I don't know what to do about it. Genuinely. Like I truly don't. Like that's why so much of the content that I make on my main channel focuses on like trying to offer a level of education, trying to offer a level of context and historical knowledge, because like debates don't change people's minds in the vast majority of the time. Like that's one thing that the book talked about that I really liked is it goes on to say that like debates are broadly useless. They're just for theater and reinforcing the views of the people who are doing the debates or cheering for either side. Like it is theater. Like that's what it is. That's what Hutch is doing. He is doing theater. If anybody wants to do legitimate political action, like this is not it. Like you can talk about politics in a meaningful way, but unless you're actually going out, you're doing stuff in your community, you are engaging in action, you are supporting people, like you are not doing politics. Voting is incredibly important, absolutely. But if you're not doing stuff for people and engaging in things and educating yourself, you are not doing politics. Like it's so complicated, and the world has made engaging in politics so unbelievably dense and hard, and this culture that we've made has amplified that to be so incredibly confusing and polarizing that like no fucking wonder Hutch exists as he does. And for the record, I don't think it's possible to sing Kumbaya with everybody around the campfire. I don't think we should. I think the act of drawing lines makes people very uncomfortable, like Hutch, but it is necessary. It is necessary to keep some people out. Straight up, 100%. Like, can you work on changing those people's minds? Abso-fucking-lutely. But there has to be a certain level of limitation in who you allow to be in your spaces. Because if things broaden to the degree where everybody is involved, then nobody is involved. There is no clear goals, and you devolve into what the Democratic Party has become, where they are
I should let him finish the sentence real quick.
literally just a stepping stool for fascism to arise.
I hate this guy. No wonder why he doesn't do debates, because he would get mogged. Unironically, this dude says, read more queer theory. I think that's fucking hilarious, because that's like a meme in the center and the right that effectively like leftists don't want to do political advocacy. They just want you to like read more theory. That way you can have even better opinions on Twitter. Hasan is right. About what? What is Hasan right about? He doesn't even articulate it. I would love it. Maybe I wasn't paying attention enough, but I would love it if he articulated what Hasan was right about. Hasan has read queer theory was another thing that he said. Wait, so Hasan is right that no, the left wing should expend all of its political capital on trans women in sports. That's actually a smart idea. That's actually a good idea. Let's focus on let's make Keffels the head of the Democratic Party. Let's make selling knockoff estrogen that you make in a bathtub by burning plastic. Let's make that a cornerstone. Let's make that a cornerstone of Democratic politics. Let's get even crazier with it. Let as a party, the Democrats should tweet out that they're going to trans your kids using bathtub estrogen. That'll probably help out. Okay. This guy has said that Hutch should make shittier content that no one watches. Effectively, he should stop doing drama slop and he should just do educational content. I think that's hysterical. Debates reinforce political tribalism, and legitimate political action is community action. Reinforcing political tribes for electoralism is not politics. I would argue the opposite. Okay? What I would argue is politics is about who wields power and how. Okay? Who wields power and how. And right now, we have a Republican system of government that involves electoralism. I want to do community action. I want to make enough money as a creator that I'm able to take 10% of my income. I'm able to pay my bills, but with that 10%, I do things that encourage you guys to do things that go out into your community and actually make the world a better place. Because I think it's good for you spiritually. I think that if some place around you gets physically fucked up and your house is fine and you still have power and you still have a little bit of money and a little bit of food, I think it is good, not just for the people that you help, but it's good for you to take the excess that you have generated in finances or food or stability or whatever, and then to give it to people who have been fucked over by nature. I think that's a good thing. And I think it builds the concept of community. I also think that going out into the community and finding the less fortunate, big brother, big sister programs, volunteering at your local schools, being a crossing guard, any of that kind of stuff. I think all of that is based. But I think that doesn't have to do with who wields power and how. And so I actually would argue the opposite, that community action is not politics. It could be used for political ends where you engage in community action in order to become popular enough in order to seize political power. But actually, arguably, in my opinion, Hutch is engaged in politics more because he analyzes more who wields power and how, and tries to reinforce a powerful political tribe. Now, categorizing the Democratic Party as the stepping stool for fascism, I think is cringe and R-slurred. I think it's very R-slurred. I would argue that the Republican Party is the stepping stool for fascism, and Democrats have been shrieking and screaming about it ineffectively, to be clear, but they've been doing their best to fight it for the past decade. Nobody listens to them because they're soy, but that's not for a lack of trying.
I don't think Hutch is a bad person. I just think he is very much a victim of this incredibly toxic mentality that has poisoned so many minds on the internet. I think him growing up on the internet absolutely did not help things. And I think that seeing him basically spend his entire time digging his heels into a reality that just straight up does not exist due to the state that we live in now is just like, it's just like really unfortunate to watch, because he has all these good intentions, but he has genuinely no idea what he's talking about. And it really fucking sucks to see somebody who could be working on themselves and doing good and using this big platform that they had and taking this risk to become somebody more focused on the real issues of our time, using that platform to endlessly talk about and try to reify the exact same things that got us into this place to begin with, while engaging in rhetorical tactics and content structures that are detrimental to the future of political engagement and getting people to realize that we need something else. I do not know if there is a way out of this. I genuinely don't think there is. I think the only thing you can do is work to continually read and understand the world, read good books like the book that I recommended and talked about earlier, and really engage in your communities, because engaging in things and meeting people and interacting is how you learn and have your minds changed. It's how you evolve your opinion. It's how I grew up. It's how Hutch should be engaging in things instead of continually building up his echo chamber and violently attacking Hasan and
Violently. God, I would pay good money to watch Hutch violently attack Hasan in a boxing ring. Holy shit. I would train Hutch like a motherfucker.
leftists for literally no good reason at all. There are good reasons, absolutely, to criticize people like them, but like these aren't one of them. I know at the very least, you, dear viewer, can think about how you engage with stuff and how you want to engage with stuff, and hopefully realize that doing what Hutch is doing only serves to make you feel like the specialist, goodest boy in your opinions. And
oh God, it's me. He's just like me, for real, for real. I am the specialist, goodest boy with the best opinions.
you deserve better than that. You deserve to have meaningful criticism. You deserve to think about what you do, how you think, how you live your life, what kinds of interactions you have with.
We only got 1 minute left on this, so I'm gonna let him wrap the last minute, and then I'm gonna hit my last bullet points for this, and then I'm gonna engage with chat for a minute, and I'm also gonna ask y'all a couple of questions.
People, and understand that doing something like this isn't healthy and meaningful. It's not bringing change. It's not making you happier. It's not moving the dial in any meaningful way. So please, I beg of you, don't engage in politics like Hutch. It is not good. It is not productive. It is only there for content farming and making you feel like you're a special, cool little guy who has for sure all the right opinions that definitely don't get their shit kicked around by just opening the news for 2 seconds. Anyways, that's been me, John Politics.
And the ML LARPing again. Holy shit.
You're in the politics zone. Thank you for coming.
20 seconds, guys. Hold on there. White knuckle it, okay? White knuckle it. Grab your desks, okay? Grab your desks, white knuckle it, okay? You got this. I believe in you, chat. I believe in you. Hold on. Hold on. 13 more seconds.
Fuck ICE. Minneapolis is the best city in the country right now. I hope that everything turns out better than it is, because it's really sad and angry, and we need something else. We need something else than what the Democrats are offering, or this will get worse. This will absolutely get worse. Okay, goodbye.
We survived! I survived, bitch.
Hello.
Ah! Oh my God, you guys are funny. So anyways, Kazra says one of the funniest things that I've seen them ever say. oh my God, I survived a revolution, but now I'm about to kill myself.